guys have just questions, we both, Paige and me, Inez, we have had one Mustang, trained them, and then put them in the showing. So if you just want us to talk a little bit how we did that, or if you have any questions, you can just interrupt, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just ask your questions so you don't forget it, because that's what happens with me. If I have one and I don't write it down or ask it, it's like, I had a question, but now I don't remember. So if you have a question, stuff like, question, and then that's it. So, do you want to start, Paige, or want me to start?
Just introduce ourselves a little.
Yeah.
So my name is Paige Burnham. I've been training horses, working with Mustangs since 2018. I have done all kinds of disciplines as far as training for the Showring, which is what this talk is kind of about. Previous to Mustangs, I had an Andalusian that I showed at the Andalusian Nationals 1 year, and then the next year I went to the Andalusian World Show. So I've done all kinds of stuff. I did a bunch of dressage and working equitation stuff with her. With the Mustangs, I have done primarily dressage. I've done a little bit of eventing. I've done a couple of obstacle challenges. We're going to let Inez mostly talk about that stuff. I've done, and then some Western dressage and some hunter-jumper stuff. Primarily English stuff. I've done 1 or 2 cowhorse classes and things like that. I kind of will try whatever, but dressage is really where I tend to stay. I also, just last year, adopted a Mustang in March, and in September I took her to the Kentucky Horse Park and competed in the Mustang Classic. And so that was super fun. She did really well and stuff, so it was the first ever English style Mustang makeover that there was. So that's kind of my background, just a short synopsis of what I've done and stuff, and I've shown multiple different Mustangs in a variety of
So my name is Inez Throm, and I'm originally from Germany, that's my accent is from. And when I was over in Germany, I showed mainly jumping, 3-day eventing, and some of the dressage stuff, and wrote totally English. Never had been on the Western side before, and then I moved over here to America, and I got involved in the Mustangs through the group Friends of the Mustangs, and then I finally got my own. I helped some people with theirs, but then I finally got my own, and trained them out of the wild, and then into it. But I mainly did then was more Western, obstacle challenges. We had a thing, and I met Craig Cameron, and he promoted the EXCA, which is Extreme Cowboy Racing. So that's an obstacle course where you also have to do lead changes and patterns. So it's not just obstacles, and your horsemanship gets counted, and then but it's a race, so time gets counted too. So at that time when I started, I had 2 pretty young Mustangs. So one was younger, he was just 4, and the other one was 6 or 7. I had taken him over from somebody else, so he was a little older, but he wasn't ridden. He would bug people off. Actually, when I got to the clinic, I wasn't quite sure, but then I rode him actually in my first Mustang race right there. First time on the horse, and 5 days later I rode him in my Mustang in the race. And then that year I went with those 2 to the World Championship in Texas, and the following 3 years I took 2 more Mustangs and took them all through the Extreme Cowboy races in Colorado, which were in Parachute at our race, and then in Colorado Springs at the Castle Riding Club. And we qualified to go for those 4 years to the World Championships in Texas. And I got with 2 of them in the finals. Never won it, but that's okay. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. So that's where it was really found out. And then, with my other Mustang, Sally, I started doing more range horse versatility and that kind of stuff. So, but so she's the English person, I'm more into the obstacle and French horse stuff, so. Any questions?
Yes, I want a jumping horse. Are there any out there that are any good for jumping?
Mustangs?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I mean, in the actually extreme cowboy race, we did have jumps too. I mean, there were jumps involved in that, and the daughter here is jumping over.
Yeah, there's
So,
most Mustangs can jump. And there's a couple out there. If you were looking for a specific jumping horse, I have a couple picked out.
Yeah.
But you're nice.
Yeah. Actually, two of mine, Paint really, and I don't jump him much anymore because he has little trouble with his partner. And, but he used to love to jump. I mean, he would jump the barrel by himself. I mean, they were out there, he would just run. And Sally, my other one, I do the venture versatility. She actually likes to jump. I have some jumps at home, and she has never refused to jump. So there's definitely Mustangs out there who probably can. I mean, I used to jump quite high in Germany. This is my thing now. I mean, I haven't jumped for a long time, and I'm older, and like, okay, this height is probably all I want to do. Not that my horses might be able to do more with someone, with another rider. I just.
Well, I know that Elsa Wallace does. She had one that she trained all the way up to international levels of eventing and stuff. Mustang when she was doing, and she's had a couple others too that she's taken like way high level 3-day eventing with.
I think she still has one. I just think I read something on Facebook
Yeah.
the other day. She's down in Florida now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know she's still competing with them. I don't know if she has any running like international levels.
I don't know that either. I don't think the one she's riding right now is. And there was like definitely, I don't know the name right now, but it was a big black Mustang, and he went way up in dressage.
Cobra.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cobra went to Grand Prix level dressage and was a national champion. So they definitely, there's Mustangs out there. I have one. She'll be here tomorrow. If anybody wants to meet her. She's only just barely 4 now, but I'm hoping she's got the build and she's got the movements to go pretty high up in dressage. So she was my makeover horse from last year. She didn't end up going very far. She stayed with me, but she'll be here tomorrow if anybody wants to meet her. She's super pretty and hopefully gonna go pretty high up in dressage. She's definitely got the potential, and I don't think she's ever gotten a score but below qualifying in a dressage show. So
Yeah, with my Mustangs I found out, and it's probably part of it because something I really like to do, and even Prescott, the one I fostered now, also really did like the obstacles. They just love to do the obstacles. Now, if you like to do something, it probably gets over to your horse more, than if you like, okay, I'm going to do that, but my heart is really not in it, and for me it was just a lot of fun, and going a little faster, and they all, I mean, I was riding at the beginning in the pro division, and then also non-pro, and I was with my Mustangs always in the 1-8 or somewhere in the first 3, 3, 5, in the regular ones, and then I had and I rode my horses actually most of the time just in a rope halter hackamore, even at road level. So, and they, I mean, they weren't the wild horses. I mean, I still remember that Craig Cameron sometimes said, and all my Mustangs weren't little Mustangs, they're all pretty big Mustangs, tall, big, and he said, she's riding those wild horses just in a halter. And they just performed in there, so it's really not about what you have on the head, it's about what the work you put into them and how they relate.
yeah, well,
To
and
you.
like she was saying, having passion for what you're doing, they feed off of that. Like Mustangs don't care. They don't care if you take good care of them and just, make sure they have enriched lives, but don't ride them. Horses aren't made to be ridden. They don't care if you do that or if you want to go to the Olympics with them and have huge dreams for them. But if you have a passion for what you do, I mean, within reason, some horses just don't like stuff. Like, I used to have an endurance horse. She loved it. And my new horse, like, I might do a couple 25-mile rides on her because I enjoy it and I think I can condition her up to that. There's no way. I was conditioning my other horse for the Tevis when she passed away. She passed away in a pasture accident. We were working up to that, which is a 100-mile ride that you do in 24 hours. It's a crazy ride. And there's no way my current, she couldn't do that. She doesn't have the endurance for it. But within reason, if you enjoy it, they will enjoy it. And that is absolutely really important what you're doing.
So would you say, since both of you have trained both domestic horses and Mustangs, could you compare and contrast the difference between Mustangs and domestic horses?
For me, it is for Mustang, the ones I trained, because they're coming out of the wild, so they are fighting for their life. I mean, if something happens, they think they're going to die. Where domestic horses, they kind of more like, I don't want to do that. And so I think for me, you have to put more of your soul into a Mustang to get him to where he really feels safe with you. And for me, that really builds the connection closer. Like I had my quarter horse, and she did great. She always did great. I mean, when I rode her, she did great in the obstacle too and everything. But since she was, I just never got the same connection to her because she was like, I just got on her and rode her, So with a Mustang, I really have to work on getting that connection that they really feel safe with you. And I think then when they do, they'll just give it to you. They're just there for you.
Yeah, once you have a Mustang that is like wanting to work with you, which you do, you have to work at that, right? You can go buy a horse, you can go buy a nice quarter horse for a couple $1,000s and take it home and have a decent horse that's been handled since it was born. Getting a Mustang, you have, for one thing, they're a totally blank slate. You know everything that has gone into that horse, right? You know that, like, by the time I bring a Mustang home, or I'm one of the Mustangers, I'm working with a little guy out there. I worked with him for the first time this morning. And I know that prior to me touching him, he had not had any experiences of being touched by somebody who wanted to build a connection with him. And so you build that connection. He'd been touched, and the BLM employees, like I was saying during my thing, they do a great job. But their job is, I'm going to give you a shot, and then I'm going to put you back in your pen. They're not looking to build a connection. They're looking to make sure the horses are healthy and safe. That's what their job is. And so you have that level of building that trust for the first time. And so, like Valkyrie, my makeover Mustang from last year that I ended up keeping, she, I love that horse more than like words can express. And there's just something different when you build that trust from the very beginning. They're scared of you. They don't know how to connect. And then you put in the work to build that connection, and then they'll do anything for you. You just have to work at that initial connection. And so that's not to say you can't connect with a domestic horse, but I do think that you build a different connection. And from what I've found, once Mustangs trust you, they'll do pretty much anything for you. So they won't say no as much.
Yeah, I think it is because you just have to build it.
Yeah, you have to.
With a domestic horse, I saw it one time. I went to a cold start with Pirelli, with horses from, I don't know which big ranch, where they are out on the fields too, and they bring them in as 2-year-olds, and then they start them. And so they had those 2-year-olds there, and they started those, and they had like 3 round pens set up, and they had all Pirelli trainers, and they had like 3 horses in each round pen. And then they just caught them with a rope, and they struggled a little bit, and then it was over. The next 2 months later, I went through the same event, but with Mustangs. They had 3 Mustangs in each round pen, not for very long, because it was a chaos. And they had the rope over their neck, those horses were trying to fight for their life, and then there was another one with a rope, and then there was another person. So they really quickly had more round pens set up and had 1 horse in each round pen. So that, when I saw those 2 difference, and the other horses weren't handled horses, you know, they were the same thing that
But they
running
lived
in the
a
shoes.
safe and cared for life.
Yeah, they were, you know, their whole breeding, it was always with people. So they were out on a big ranch, but they weren't out. I mean, they got fed and they had hay and they didn't have to go. So that opened my eyes about how much more time, and sometimes it's not that much time, and just like you today with you, I mean, you got into touch you pretty quick, you know, it depends a little bit on the Mustang you have too, but you have to really get them to where they really feel safe with you, you know. If you start putting stuff on them before they feel safe with you, you'll probably push it back out, and then it's way harder to bring them. So, and I have ball paint, my big Mustang I have home, and I went to the road with him and I did everything with him. But when I got him, because he's more like a right-bred introvert horse, so he's very obedient, and at that time I just didn't know better, so I pushed him over a lot of thresholds, which I didn't know, because he did it. You know, he was okay, he stood there, I could do stuff with him. But it came out later on, and still sometimes when I walk up to him, or he sees me coming, he's 19-year-old now, so I have him 17 and a half years, and he will walk off, and I cannot touch him. Because right at the beginning, I pushed him too hard, and because he was so obedient, he wouldn't, and I can do everything with him when I have a halter on him. But when he's on liberty, and he will sometimes walk off, or I cannot go out there and just put the halter on. Prescott, the one I have 3 minutes, I can just walk out and put the halter on him, not ball paint. I can go out and just brush him out in the pasture or the thing, not ball paint. So that showed me when I had him, I didn't take the time to make the connection that he felt safe with me, because I just didn't know he didn't feel safe with me. You know, he stood there like, okay, you know, he's okay. So yeah, so I mean, that opened my eyes for that. And so it's definitely a different deal to work with a Mustang and to start him out than with a domestic horse. I mean, and when you have that trust and that safety to get them, I think then it's pretty much the same than working with a domestic horse. The training is pretty much the same.
Yeah, the training isn't super different once you build that relationship with them and teach them how to build a connection and seek you out and trust you. Then it's, you know, basic like natural horsemanship training.
Yeah. Whichever route you want to go.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so good.
Any other questions?
Out of curiosity, either of you guys worked with mules or donkeys? And I only ask in relation to like the Mustang, the domestic horse, the donkey, burro, mule psychology.
So my grandma, who's right here, she did a tip challenge with the burro, and I helped her quite a bit with the burro for the tip challenge. So I have this tiny amount of experience working, but I did help her some with the burro.
Would you say that like my experience with working with domestic horses versus Mustang, versus I haven't worked a ton with burros
Yeah.
and more with mules,
Yeah.
is kind of that order. Like the domestic horses are like, yeah, do whatever, whatever. The Mustangs are like, okay, let me trust you.
Yeah.
I'll follow the same kind of structural program that the domestic horse would. But then the mules that I've worked with, they're like, okay, I trust you, I love you, I'm not gonna do anything for you.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's pretty accurate. Like,
okay.
Kona, the little burro we worked with, she kind of like I was saying with her war paint horse. When we started out with her, like, she would let us do whatever. Like, we were able to halter her, we were able to lead her, all of that stuff. The more she trusted us, the less she would do for us. Like, she started being comfortable enough to say no, and
Okay.
so she got really good at saying no.
Then what?
So, a lot of work on teaching her that there are times you say yes. And so a lot of, just low level pressure and release type stuff. Teaching her that, you can't just lock up and refuse to go forward. We have to, when somebody tells you to walk, you have to walk forward.
And did you find that your pressure in that regard was, so like if you had been working with a domestic horse in a similar situation, the pressure would be a little bit higher on the Mustangs and on the domestic horse, and the pressure would be a little bit higher, did it be softer with the burro?
I don't know that higher or softer. I don't do a lot of like super escalating pressure.
Okay.
Longer, longer
Okay.
wait times.
More
before she
patience.
more patience. Yeah.
Okay.
Did he, we're talking about the same guy. He will sit and stare at you and think about it. You can see it. You can see his mind working. Like, okay, you want me to go forward? Okay. But he'll process it and think about it.
That's kind of the same with the little girl.
And I've seen the same with Mustangs, and the less receptive
Yeah.
to just connection at large, the more the resistance is.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, cool.
Yeah, I think that would be a fair characterization.
Well, thank you. Sorry, thank you for letting us dive
No,
that.
that's totally good.
A postscript to that, this situation with this horse, so that horse, I kind of followed that little burro. It
Kona?
changed hands
Okay.
2 times. And now the people that have it, it's quite a bit older, now what, 4, 5, 6 years?
Maybe 6 now.
Something like that. Those people are taking it on those burro runs. So the thing that not only has it turned over a new leaf completely, but it's completely trackable.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so,
Nice, thank you. I
But
love
the-
little details going on.
so the interesting thing there is, what is the difference? I mean, the people that own it now don't know anything about horses.
Yeah.
But the donkey's working great for them.
Well, they said it's their best one in the whole land they have, right?
So it's pretty weird. Maybe it just required some age, right? 2 or 3 or 4 years, and now it's
Time
better
to
that way.
process all the new, going from being a wild, little wild thorough to being in a tip challenge and, having all these weird expectations, because everything we expect these animals to do is weird. Like, it's not normal to sit on their, like, not to ride a little burro, but it's not normal to expect to have them walk with us with something tied around their face or touch them or anything. Like, I always say, I also do a little bit of dog training. I say if I was an animal, I would be one that would be considered unanimal. Like, I would be biting and kicking everybody. Like, what do you mean you're gonna touch me on the face and do these things to me? I don't want you to do that. So, it's weird, right? We're asking them to do bizarre things. So, time to process it.
And if you go into some other, like wild animal training, which the Mustang is really a wild animal, if you go in some other wild animal training, their timeline is way, way, way bigger to ask for one thing to teach them. We try to teach them this and this and this and this and this. Like 4 or 5 things where they teach them one thing in that timeline. So we really a lot of times, we'll just like expect a whole lot of and I mean we are talking mainly about Mustangs here. A horse who was living in the wild, didn't know people, comes in, and then it's like, okay, now those predators want to touch us, and we should let them do that, and they want us to do this and do that, and it's like, and we want it all. And I have to say, I got way, way better about being more patient and taking more time. And my one Mustang Tuxedo, which I have home, he really told me that. I got it 6 years ago. Like this year was the first time I actually got on it. Now I didn't put time in. I put time in that I wasn't, and so. But still, I mean, he told me to hardly see. And now, but I felt like, and I did work with him, with Taylor, because this horse was the one horse where I was like, I don't know anything. I really don't know nothing. I mean, it was just like, and so I really had to slow down way more than I thought. I thought I would already slow down, and I had to slow down so much more.
I have a horse kind of like that right now. I adopted him, or I purchased him. He was sales authority last October, and he was doing really good, like with the basic stuff. But the more I pushed it, I was hoping to do the Mustang Challenge and the Mustang Classic, the Mustang Champions, I'm putting on this year. But he just couldn't. He could he needed time, and I tried, but he kept telling me no, I can't. Like this is so much. And so I backed off. I basically just left him in his pen. I'll go in with him a couple times a week and say hi. He's gotten now to where he seeks out attention. He's like, oh hi, can we do stuff? And so that tells me he's ready to start doing after this event. I'm going to start focusing on getting him ready to go to a forever home. Because my goal was to compete in those challenges with him, but I backed out on that because I won't push a horse that's not, if he's telling me no, he's telling me no, and that's, not every horse is, in fact, I argue a lot of horses aren't suitable for makeovers. Some are. Valkyrie was, and she did really well. She loved the pressure. She loved for a while leading up to the Kentucky makeover last year, I was riding her twice a day, and she loved it. Like, we got home from the makeover, and I was like, okay, cool, you can rest now. I'm keeping you. You're not going anywhere. You can chill. And she was like, what are we doing now? Like, why are you only riding me 3 days a week? This is ridiculous. Where is my 2 times a day training sessions? She thrived on it, but a lot of them don't, and she's still like, her favorite thing is getting out and doing things. It doesn't matter what we're doing. That's like what she loves to do. And so, but a lot aren't. They need the time to settle and digest all of the changes that their life has gone through. So.
Yeah, and then I have Mustang Sally at home, which I actually got in Fort Collins in the Mustang makeover. I was there with my other horse Drifter. We did a Mustang drill team, and I went with 1 horse and came back with 3. My husband after that said, "You take 3 horses if you have a 3-horse trailer." And one of them was Mustang Sally, and she was not adopted. He was the only horse who nobody adopted, and I didn't want her to go back to Canyon City. I'm like, I'm taking her home, and she was very high strung. That's what she looked to. She came in the arena, and you're like, oh my God, And so I took her home and just put her out for a little bit, and then put her in my round pen. I looked at her, and I didn't especially like her. And I looked at her like, man, she has actually a pretty nice gait if she's not all tightened up. And then I took her, and she was ridden. I mean, they rode her in there, And then I took her just on a lead line in my obstacle course. And she would go to every obstacle, and she would just look, and I let her look. I didn't push her. I was like, okay, I just want to see what you do. And what I loved about this horse, everything I showed her, if it goes through a copper curtain, through water, over something, when she did it calm. She looked, and she thought about it, and then she just walked over, or walked through, or walked under. That's when I thought, I might have to keep this horse, because at that time I was doing the extreme cowboy race, And so she really excelled in that, and then I took her into French horse versatility and showed her there. For 1 year I showed her quite a bit. I haven't showed her, I think last year only once, and I didn't show her all this year. But she did, we went to some places, who is that horse? And I'm like, it's a Mustang. Like, what? Because, she won 2nd place with all, range horses and stuff like this. It is raining. It's an obstacle course. The one was actually a barrel race. It was the first barrel race I did and she did. And raining, and then cow work, cutting and putting the cow in a pen, So, and I think that's what she actually loved the most. She loved cows. When I started cow work with her, I had to actually reel her in because grayers would go back big waving fan, but actually with her I did, I kind of didn't like it because she has kind of a low headset anyway. And, yeah, a lot of people asked me when I went out there, it's like, that's a Mustang? Like, I don't know if they can do that. So,
I'll get the same thing at dressage shows. I've been asked about 2 of my Mustangs. Oh, what's their breeding? Are they related to this stallion or that stallion? And I'm like, oh, it's a Mustang. And people are like, that's a Mustang? There's no way that's a Mustang, you know? Once you're here, yeah, they look like Mustangs, right? You get them home, you get them fed and conditioned and trained in a frame, all of those things. Trained for self-carriage, that type of stuff. It changes how they look, and they really do make, depending on what you're looking for. Obviously, if you're looking for a dressage horse, you're looking for different things than if you're looking for a cow horse, as far as like natural conformation stuff. But they change so much, and so you can walk around here, and I've gotten where I can look at horses. Like I said, if you want a jumping horse, there's a couple that I'm like, yeah, this horse would. They've got good shoulder angles, and they'd make a decent jumping horse. And the little buckskin colt that I drew for the Mustang Summit, he makes such a good dressage horse. That horse has such a nice trot and great build, and he's going to be huge, which is a plus. So, they can do it though. They don't just kind of sort of do it. Once you get them in doing it, they can be totally successful in it. So
So is that how you get over the discrimination in non-Mustang events when Mustangs are there? It's just by proving how well they can do.
you just go beat everybody.
yeah.
You just go beat it.
And I think that's what we really need more, is more people, it's good for the Mustangs, more people going out there and actually showing them.
Showing them well, not just
Yeah.
taking a Mustang to a show that they're not prepared
Yeah.
for, but training and preparing them and showing up and showing well, showing up and showing off your horse and being proud of it. Not, oh, this is a Mustang, so I'm not going to put in the time to teach it self-carriage because it's going to be harder because it's got a longer back than some of the dressage horses or whatever your thought is. That's not the way to do it. You just go and you train for it, just like you train any other horse for their event. You do it and do it well, and that's how you get people to start. Because like the local dressage club, they used to be kind of not a huge fan of me and my Mustangs, and I showed 4 or 5 of them. And now we've got several people showing Mustangs, and they're actually trying to in the entire Rocky Mountain Dressage Society, which covers all of Colorado as well as parts of Wyoming and all of Utah, and maybe a part of Montana. I'm not sure. It's the region, and they are working on making Mustangs one of the breeds that wins year-end awards and stuff because there's enough interest in stuff now, and so it's really cool, and it's just because a couple people. It wasn't just me. There's a person on the Eastern Slope doing it, and then a lady named Mary Duke that's also got a Mustang that she's competing with really well, showing up and working towards going up the levels and doing well. So.
Actually, they do have that, and I'm not involved in the extreme grabber race anymore because we don't have races here in Colorado. But they do have a section, one race just for Mustangs, and they actually have just a gal I know from earlier said, oh, you should come with your Mustang because they have like a, I don't know, $20,000 purse for just the Mustang part of the extreme cover race. And I'm like, man, I wish I could still be in there. But so yeah, I think the show world is starting to recognize that a Mustang is not just a long-headed, big-hoofed, out-of-proportion horse, which they used to be. They start recognizing that there are actually Mustangs out there, and I won't say everyone, but not every domestic horse either, and they can show them very, very well in the showring, whatever you want.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, and even like thoroughbreds, they breed so many thoroughbreds to race, and only a super small percentage of them make them to the track. So just because not every Mustang can do a certain event doesn't mean that Mustangs can't do it. Because otherwise we could also say thoroughbreds can't race, and that would be obviously a ridiculous thing, because thoroughbreds have been bred for thousands of years. It's just not every animal born is going to be able to meet the prerequisites to be able to be successful at something. But, and I always like to suggest people be open-minded, especially if you aren't going into it looking for, you know, if I was looking for an English-style horse, I was looking for one that had the movement and stuff when I adopted Valkyrie. And so I was looking for one that had the conformation and movement to do dressage, and I got one that absolutely loves it. But if you're just looking to adopt because you love the horses and want to see what adventures you get to go on, figure out what your horse likes. Go to clinics, go try stuff out, find what your horse likes, and then build off of that. Because if you enjoy it and your horse enjoys it, like we were saying earlier, then that's one of the key components to being successful, is making sure that you're doing something both of you enjoy. Good. Any other questions?
Well,
Thank you, guys.